Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Okay, so we are on chapter 6, and last time we discussed in detail about verse 35, and Krishna Bhagavan answered Arjuna's doubt that, hey, this yoga that you're taught me so far of equanimity, I see short-term benefit, but I don't know if this can be useful for me for long-term or anybody, because my mind is very, very chanchal, is unyielding, is strong, unyielding, and all those adjectives he used about is turbulent, unyielding, strong, and restless. Those were the four things he said. And Krishna Bhagavan now answered, and he said, undoubtedly, he agreed with him. And then mind is difficult to control and is restless. So both the things he agreed, and with restless, other three also go. But then immediately he said, but by practice and by vairagya, it can be restrained. So that's where we were. And we will read Swamiji's commentary. He has given a very nice commentary, and he has opened up certain points about those two. And Dr. Prabhakar was saying that he wanted to discuss more about it towards the end. So we will do that, practical ways of those two things, because those two are the most important practices, looks like. So here, who would like to read? Meeraji, you want to read today? Yeah, go ahead.
So we are reading verse 35.
Yeah.
Okay. The blessed Lord said, undoubtedly, O mighty armed one, the mind is difficult to control and is restless. But by practice, O son of Kunti, and by dispassion, it is restrained. Vyas, the immortal dramatist, in his preoccupation with the philosophical explanations, does not for a moment drop down the mantle of poetry off his shoulders. This is, in fact, the incomparable glory of the poet-philosopher Vyasa. Indeed, there is a bustling moment of dramatic possibility at this point in Geeta, which any hasty artist can overlook, but not Vyasa. And in fact, it is such artistic moments fulfilled so magnanimously that give Geeta the compelling charm of magic even to those who do not understand it at all.
So Swamiji obviously feels like there's so much more in Bhagavad Gita. There's poetry, there's philosophy, there is psychology. Everything is epitome of it. There's not even a single thing kind of missed over here. So he's just glorifying it, and sometimes people will say, how did they talk in the poetry form and things like that, but there are people who have that skill, that they can talk in poetry. Well, that's number one. And I think, to me, the most biggest value of that is you cannot change anything. See, like in other scriptures, like Christianity is famous that over the time they changed the Bible according to, some kings and all that, and they're to suit whatever that history and time, whatever they wanted to do. Here you can't, even if one little thing you can't change because it's so tight. It's in a poetry form, and there's a meter to it. So there's a lot of different important things in there. Yeah, go ahead.
Krishna knew this Arjuna as the warrior, the man of action, the daring adventurer, and the ruthless realist. When such a tumultuous personality spurs himself out with a drawn dagger, either to agree with or to condemn the noble philosophy of a true missionary, the teacher must have the balance of mind to approach the rebel intellect with divine understanding and extreme tact. At this juncture in the Geeta, the situation, to put it in a nutshell, is this. The Lord propounds the theory that mind stilled is self-gained, and Arjuna argues that mind cannot be stilled, and so self cannot be gained.
In the modern language, we call it the standoff, right? It's a standoff point right now. Because Krishna Bhagwan said that mind ko still karo, self mil jayega. And Arjuna is saying, mind ko to still ho hi nahi sakta hai, to is so turbulent, to self is not going to be gained, And then, the adjective he used for Arjuna, it applies to all of us. Look at the adjectives in the beginning. Daring adventurer, ruthless realist. Like, hey, your philosophy may be great for you, but I have to go, work in the world, and people get all kinds of, I have family, I have this problem, I have that problem. And when such a tumultuous personality, saying spurs, means, yahan par, or uska diya, urges or impels with the speed, with the drawn dagger to agree or to condemn. Matlab, abhi wo hai ki bas, aar ya par, And the other thing you can say is that you can see somewhere he still has doubt. And he's like, I got you, Krishna, now. You're telling me for last 6 chapters, I got you now. This cannot be done. So Krishna Bhagavan has to be so tactful, because this is a juncture that he can just say, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. The danger was there, So how does Krishna Bhagavan handle it? That's the whole idea. So that's why Swamiji says about the poetry and this and that, because it's a very important juncture in Bhagavad Gita.
Both of them are arguing upon the possibility or otherwise of realizing the self in the subtle kingdom within, and therefore therein no objective demonstration is ever possible. In the material sciences of the world, all arguments between scientists can be finally determined and completely proved on the laboratory tables and on graph papers. But in the case of the subjective science, it being a transaction between two equally integrated personalities, arguments as such, though unavoidable, must be very carefully directed. And he is a true missionary who is a master of the psychology of his opponent. Conversion of another's intellect into the right channels is no rough act of any woodcutter or any grave digger. It is the hard but careful art of cutting jewels. He is to shape the heart of another and bring out of it more light.
My God, how beautifully he said it, that he has to change his heart. And we know that to change the heart of somebody is not an easy task. And it is not like some rough job of a woodcutter or a grave digger. It's like a jewel maker, is bringing more light. I mean, the analogy couldn't be better. I don't know where Swamiji comes up with it, but it gives the point. And then the other important thing is, and it's kind of interesting that Swamiji said that scientists versus philosophy, or here it's the philosophy, we don't call it the truth. But it is subjective. So nobody can, it's just like if somebody says, hey, show me God. You can't show him God. You can show a manifestation, Krishna Bhagwan, but in the essence, nobody can show, because they say, you can be God, not see God. That's what one of the, I think it was Osho who said that. It was a great statement that, you can be God but cannot see God. So that's why he's saying that you can't prove in the lab. You cannot do any of that. And I see this among the, scientists are 2 types. One is who believe in this and the others who don't. And the ones who don't, it is like breaking the wall with your head, It's you can't argue with them, because they'll always come up with some counter argument. You can't show, that means I don't believe it. And a similar thing is going to come with Kathopanishad. That, hey, how do I know this, Brahman? How do I know this factor? So that's why Krishna Bhagwan has a very difficult job. But Swamiji also said that he's a true missionary. Means he's not going to give up that easily. Firstly, he loves Arjun very much. And then through Arjun, he's telling all of us. So he's not going to give up. And he's a master of psychology of the opponent. So he knows where is he standing and how to handle him, and we can learn some tricks from him about that. Means पूरा डंडा लेके खड़े नहीं हो जाओ. No, stand up. Come down, stoop to his level a little bit first. So that's what he's going to do.
Yeah. When an impetuous man like Arjun gets hold of an idea in all enthusiasm, the best technique is to yield to him to start with. Stoop to conquer is the secret of success in philosophical discussions, especially in such moments of mental perversions natural in the ignorant. Thus, the great psychologist Krishna, with the very first word in his reply, quietly disarms his mighty adversary and immediately tickles the vanity of the warrior with the terms, "No doubt, O mighty arm." Krishna admits that the mind is turbulent, strong, unyielding, and restless, and that it is very difficult to control, and therefore the goal of perfect and enduring tranquility cannot be easily achieved.
So I think that this is a very kind of important thing that Krishna Bhagwan ने बोला, immediately agree किया उसके साथ कि भाई yes, it is difficult. And like I remember it was I think Kennedy's statement, we want to go to the moon not because it is easy but because it's hard. He said, challenge chalo. Because I think as humans, we always like challenge. That's why the test gets a little harder and harder. And they always say कि पुराने ज़माने में बोलते थे ना कि जब दो लोग फाइट करते थे तो इक्वल होना चाहिए. ऐसे कोई ऐसे वीकलिंग को एक थप्पड़ मारा वो गिर गया तो फिर फाइट क्या हुई, right? You gotta have a great opponent. So that's where this is coming from. That hey, and उसको महाबाहो बुला रहे हैं वो, because taunting भी कर रहे हैं और बोल रहे हैं yes you can do it because you should be ready for a great challenge. Some easy thing, and he's going to talk about that in the next paragraph. Yeah, go ahead.
By this admission, Arjuna is flattered. By reminding him that he is a mighty armed soldier in life, he is mentally brought to a restful peace. The taunting implication in it is obvious. To achieve the impossible and the difficult is the job. To achieve the impossible and the difficult is the job of the mighty armed. It is no glory for a warrior to claim that he has plucked half a dozen flowers from a bush in his own courtyard. The mind is no doubt a great enemy, but the greater the enemy, the nobler also is the victory.
So we are all understood. If you just pluck few flowers and you're calling them Mahabhav, उसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है? And if the mind is a great enemy because it's turbulent, it's this, it's that, and you have to control it, then be ready for your Mahabhav, And then हम लोग ने इंडिया में सुना है ना कि मन को जीत लेना मतलब सबसे बड़ी बात है. पूरी दुनिया को भी जीत लो और मन नहीं जीता, कुछ नहीं जीता तुमने. So here it is a great thing that to control, but he thinks that Arjun should do it because he's a Mahabhav.
In the second line of the stanza, again the eternal missionary in Krishna very carefully weighs his words and uses the most appropriate terms to suit the mind of Arjun. O son of Kunti, it can be brought under control, is an assertion which comes only as the last word of the stanza. Through practice and renunciation, the mind can be brought under control in the beginning and ultimately to a perfect halt. This is the confident, reassuring declaration of the Lord in the Geeta.
So, another thing I thought of, that even though Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Arjun and Lord Krishna, and the setting is about the war, but symbolically, it is a war within us. That is the most important thing. People get stuck on the war. Okay, why didn't Krishna Bhagwan prevent the war? And they forget that what is the whole philosophy behind it. The war is going on in our mind constantly with the good and the bad. And like our teacher used to explain that the Kaurav, the 100 hai or Pandav 5, right? There are more negative tendencies in us. There are few good tendencies, okay? So that's the symbolism. But the good tendency have to hold down to the feet of Lord Krishna. Then only you will win. Otherwise, if you think, oh, I can do it, you will never be able to do it. So that's why you surrender to God. So that's the whole symbolism behind it. So once we get deeper and deeper into Geeta, we have to forget about this actual war that is going on and focus on the war in the mind. That's the whole idea. And over here, this is what it's coming to now. And the other thing that he first line में उन्होंने उनको बोला महाबाहो, चैलेंज किया. सेकंड लाइन में उसको बोलते हैं ओ सन ऑफ कुंती, सीधा मदर को ले आए to soften him. See how the psychology is. So very rarely Krishna Bhagavan has used two words to address him in the same verse, but this is a very important one. And then so he brought that, say it can be done, just like a mother tells a child or the father tells a child, hey, don't worry, it can be done, you are very good, this and that. चाहे अंदर से उसको डर लग रहा हो तो भी करेगा या नहीं करेगा, ऊपर से हम लोग ऐसे ही बोलेंगे, yes, you can do it. That's exactly the psychology over here, that hey, don't worry, with these two things you can do it. Practice in this fashion.
Renunciation has been already described earlier in the Gita as sannyasa, which was defined as renunciation of A, all clinging attachments to the objects of the world, B, lingering expectations of the fruits of action. These two are the main causes for the agitation of thoughts, which further thicken the flood of the thought flow and make the mind uncontrollable. As Shankara describes, practice, abhyas, is constant repetition of the same idea regarding one and the same object of thought. This consistency of thought during steady meditation generally gets diverted and dissipated because of the frequent explosive eruptions of desires. Whipped up by the new desires that are rising at every moment, the thoughts wander into dissimilar channels of activities, upsetting the inner equilibrium and thereby shattering the true vitality of the inner personality.
So some of the analysis is already begun, Dr. Prabhakar, you were asking, and we can further discuss it. So firstly, he's telling you what disturbs us when we are trying to sit in the meditation. The first thing they tell you is, think of one subject. Out of the entire world, you shut down and bring it to one, and which is on self, and that's why you need to know who self is. And then, so what happens is that our desires and, running after the desires and all that, and we may think we don't have, but the fact that we cannot, the fact that we cannot focus on our meditation, it's telling you why. It is always because our mind is running after desire, and like the bhai bhen of desires, basically the basic is that. And then he talked about two different things that he has already discussed in detail before. All clinging attachment to the objects of the world. And if we do our analysis, this includes everything, including like I cannot live without this particular thing. And all of us have that long list. Especially when we travel, you see what we want to take. Some people even want to take their pillows. I can't live without it. It can take any kind of form. Those are all attachments, objects of the world. Or I need this particular brand only. I need this tea. I need my morning tea. And all of us are addicted, unfortunately. But all of that comes under this, And then the second is lingering expectation of the fruit of action. This is actually a major thing. That, I want certain things to be this way. And we already know, even at our age, from the experience, we know that whatever we want, it doesn't happen. We may plan for A and, B, C, D, and Z tak pahunch jayega, different results, but it may not happen the way we want. So all of these two are the main causes of agitation he's talking about. So these are some of the things that go in with practice, that what can kind of have a problem.
Thus viewed, practice, abhyas, strengthens renunciation, sannyas, which generates detachment vairagya, and which in its turn deepens meditation, abhyas. Hand in hand, each strengthens the other. Thus, the total progress is steadily maintained.
So this is also another very important thing, that you need both. But hey, which one is more important? Krishna Bhagavan is literally saying that they both are complementary to each other. So you can pick whichever one, does not matter. But he's going to talk about why abhyas is more important than the vairagya also. He's going to talk about the next paragraph. All they are saying is abhyas se vairagya strong hota hai, vairagya se abhyas ho jayega. And there are so many things in the world which are like that, that it strengthens each other. So that's what he's saying over here.
In scriptural textbooks, the arrangement of words is to be carefully noted, for in all cases, the words are arranged in a descending order of importance. To every seeker, the question comes at one time or the other, whether he should wait for the spirit of detachment to voluntarily arrive in his mind, or he should start his practice. The majority wait in vain for the accidental arrival of the moment of vairagya before they start their abhyas. The Geeta, in this stanza, clearly declares that such an expectation is as ridiculous as waiting for the harvest of the crops which we never sowed. Oh.
So he's telling you that abhyas is very, very important. It's, we can take the worldly example. If I want to learn a new skill and I keep reading about it every day, but I never ever go and practice it, will I ever get it? There is no way. Take a simple example of swimming or biking or something. And I know that I can give a whole lecture on how to swim and how to bike because I read the book and how to do everything, but I never get into the water or get on the bike. It'll never happen then. That's what, the analogy is. Okay, practice to karna shuru kari do, but then you will know where you stand. And then, the other thing is that karma yoga and all that, he has already mentioned so many techniques. We can't forget all the things, all the techniques that he talked about. Abhyas. Hey, so people can start with different practices, very simple ones, but you have to build upon it. So there are many things that go in the abhyas. Hey, what is the right kind of abhyas? It can be different for different people. You got to evaluate it yourself. But basically saying they both are important, but abhyas to shuru karna is the most important, because if you don't do it, then he gave the amazing example of it's like, hey, you have not even put the seeds and you think that some flower or some harvest is going to come.
Let us analyze life, question its experiences, argue with ourselves, and note carefully how much we put into life and how much, as a return, we gain from life. When we become aware of the deficit balance each time we, out of necessity, shall start inquiring how our life could be more profitably reorganized so that our entire coffers of joy and happiness could be replenished to their brim. Soon the study of the Shastras will follow, which will give us a peep into the wonders of a moral life, the wisdom of ethical values, the joys of self-control, the thrills of growth, and the consequent suffocation of the egocentric little life.
So, we have to see what he's saying at the end of the paragraph and then come back to it. So basically he's saying these are the things you require, wisdom of ethical values, to stick to some ethics. What are the practices? That's what basically it is. Value-based. Satyam, I want to tell the truth. Then you have to tell the truth at every cost. You can't worry about the consequences. And the joy of self-control. Because here there is a huge confusion about freedom. In America, they think freedom means do whatever you want. That's not freedom. Freedom is when you have a mind under control. That's the true freedom. When my mind becomes my slave. That is the true freedom, not whatever I want. Exactly opposite. If you go deeper in philosophy, what does freedom mean? And the thrill of growth and the suffocation of the egocentric little life, because when you realize that when our ego is less, that's when you're enjoying your life more. So, and then he's saying, so how do I get inspired to do the practice? He's saying, take a stock of your life. How much you're putting in it and what you're getting out of it. And sometimes, you hear people, oh, मैंने इतना मेहनत किया, इतना ये कुछ नहीं मिला मुझे, because they're looking at it from the worldly perspective. We have gone through those verses in chapter 3 when they said that this practice of karma yoga, the outside result may look bad, but the internal growth that matters over here. It's not like outside the growth, so, why this bad thing is happening to me? Why, if you have a death in the family or some disease or something, anything can happen in the world, right? Accidents happen and all that. Why this? But from outside world, it might look, but how you're handling it inside, and if you're having this spiritual growth, that is the most important thing. So when you take the stock of your life, it will automatically, you'll get drawn to these kind of philosophies, scriptures, and all. But that's where the answers are there. That's where, Krishna, even in the beginning, Krishna Bhagwan said to Arjun that when he said he was full of grief, basically he said that only Atma Gyan is going to take away your grief. Worldly things, we cannot have any kind of argument is not going to justify over here. Because everyone, why me? Why this happened to me? Because we look at the life in a very, very narrow vision, just this particular life. Life is very big, expansive, and the purpose, worldly purpose are different, spiritual purpose is different. All that has to be thought about, then you will get inspired. And once you do get inspired, do get into practice, you will get the joy of it. It's like, I think Anilji talks about it, that how in when he started, seriously meditating and all, how much joy he started getting. So this paragraph is pointing to that kind of thing, evaluating our life.
From the moment we start trying to become aware of our own lives, we are in the realm of practice, abhyas. As a result of this, the detachment that comes automatically to us is the true and enduring detachment, vairagya. All else is a sham show of stupid self-denial which crams a human soul and distorts and perverts his intelligence into an ugly figure riddled with its own hysterical ravings and bleeding with its own psychological ulcers. Wow.
Maybe we should stop here because, we see in India sometimes लोग कुछ वो कांटों पे सो जाएंगे और वो पता नहीं क्या अपने आप को टॉर्चर करेंगे, and there is nothing spiritual about it. देख के भी कुछ you feel terrible. And sometimes, without knowing why I'm doing this practice, oh, मैंने ये खट्टा छोड़ दिया, oh, मैंने वो कर दिया, and like what I'm saying? Or I'm not going to eat this, do this terrible upvas, my body is deteriorating and I'm doing this. Don't even know why you're doing it. I think that Swamiji must have seen all these things. And then, when people, those kind of dhongi type of people, वो लोग बदनाम करते हैं हमारे शास्त्रों को, So a lot of things come under this. So without understanding, without reading Bhagavad Gita, without knowing what you're doing, if you start doing just denial, that it takes a very ugly form. That's what he's trying to tell you over here.
Okay. Vairagya, born out of abhyas alone, is the charter for free spiritual growth. Of your own accord, never renounce anything. Let your attachment with things drop off of its own accord as a result of your intellectual growth into the higher planes of better understanding and truer estimation of things and beings, happenings and behaviors, occurrences and incidents around you in life.
So we have discussed this. जब अपने आप छूटता है वो सबसे बेस्ट है, because force करके छोड़ेंगे तो it's like a ज्वालामुखी, it's going to again burst out. Like I think somebody Prabhakarji was talking about the coffee, right? That, hey, I don't want to have coffee, but then I go to somebody's house and the smell comes and then I want to have it. So that means वो अपने आप छूटा नहीं है, अपने suppress करके उसको किया है. अपने आप छूटेगा तो आपका मन जाएगा ही नहीं उसमें. तो it's called the विवेक जन्य वैराग्य जिसको बोलते हैं, और एक दूसरे को बोलते हैं श्मशान वैराग्य. Smashan Vairagya, no, okay, somebody passed away, something happened, and you go in the funeral and you will say, it could be anybody, family, friends, anybody. And then you suddenly become so Vairagi that, oh my God, dunya mein kuch nahi rakha hai, one day I'm going to be here too, ye hai, wo hai, and suddenly you become spiritual. And then moment after you come back, within half a day or next day again, you're sucked into the world. That's called Smashan Vairagya. And Vivek Janya Vairagya is more with knowledge. You know that ephemeral nature of this world, that I just cannot hang on to anybody. Neither people, nor things, nor result, nor nothing. It's like a water going in the river. Can we hold the river water? Yeah, you can dam it for a while and use it, but if you, normal river, natural river, you can never hold the water. It's a constant flow. Same thing over here, that the more we understand from Bhagavad Gita, hey, what is world, what is Brahman, what is the relationship, what is my relationship with the world, who am I, all those things come under this whole thing about Vairagya. Then only you will get the true Vairagya, and then you're not going to care about it. And then somebody was saying, the people who are really Vairagi, they enjoy the life to the most. We don't even come close to it. जिसको बोलते हैं ना कि कल मेरा सब कुछ चला गया तो भी मैं I'll be so happy, वो लोग खूब आराम से enjoy करते हैं life को. But they're constantly worrying and this and that, we can't enjoy life.
When through right practice, enduring detachment has come rushing in full gush into our inner lives, then the mind comes under our control. Now it has no more any world of pluralistic objects to roam into, and the only world which it now knows is the world of equanimity and sameness.
Okay, so you read that other one too, yeah.
Yeah.
Vairagya born out of Abhyas, you already read it, right? That's what.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah, that's fine. Because we broke it, so I also got confused. Right. So basically, now we know, that what they mean by true Vairagya, but it is also true, I cannot wait for that state to happen to start my practice. See what he's trying to say? Because sometimes, when I sit in meditation, my mind is going too much and all that. I need to develop this Vairagya and all that. If you keep waiting, then that strong Vairagya may never come. But all he's saying that if you start the practice, Vairagya will be easier to come. So it's a complementary to each other. It's a delicate balance. So to me, the best thing is continue the study of Bhagavad Gita and continue the practice. And they both will strengthen each other. And it will go.
Yeah. The connecting line to the next verse, what then will be the lot of those who have no self-control? And that is the last line over here.
Yeah, because the next one, Krishna Bhagwan, Arjun's question was so potent that he answered him in 2 different verses. So that's why the next person, his next one is not that difficult. Basically, he's saying that, जिसका mind control में हो गया वो कर सकता है और नहीं हुआ तो नहीं हो सकता है, So it's like, okay, I want to climb this mountain, but I don't do my daily exercise and practice, and I didn't learn the skill, and now I say, I can't, do the mountain. The person who has done all these things will be able to climb the mountain. So sometimes, like we look at somebody else's job and say, I can never do this. This is so difficult. Don't we say that? Like a surgeon, and the surgeon actually loves his job. That he is most in the element when he's doing that surgery because he's learned the skill. And that's what he likes. But other लोगों को difficult लगता है वो job. Or it can be even a job that we may think it is totally mundane for me and boring for me, but that guy likes it. You are not him. So whoever has the skill of a particular thing and know how to do it, for them it becomes easy. And for rest it's difficult. That's the next verse. Yeah. So here is, I thought Swamiji's commentary was absolutely brilliant, But anyway, Prabhakarji, if you this is a good time now to discuss about, with this, what we learned, what would be your questions now? About Abhyas and Vairagya, and we can kind of open it up to people.
Yeah, my first question is, before the questions, I think Swamiji has clearly indicated his commentaries par excellence. I mean, I think it gives us the essence of what is Vairagya and what is practice. My question here is, yes, both are important, practice and Vairagya, and practice is more important than Vairagya. My first question is that, what are those practices? What practices one has to be in it to lead to Vairagya? That is my first question.
So, when did you join our Geeta class? I'm trying to remember. How many months ago?
I think it is in I think the same chapter.
Oh, you can, because we are in the chapter of meditation. So if you go back to Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter was all Arjun's Vishada Yoga, where Arjun is all depressed and all that. Then second chapter is almost a summary of the entire Gita, right? So he talked about Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, everything. And then chapter 3 is Karma Yoga. So Krishna Bhagavan said, suppose if like I don't know anything about, hey, where do I start my practice? He says, start with Karma Yoga. That's it. And what is Karma Yoga? There are 4 or 5 very important components to it. Karma Yoga is not doing a lot of what you call social surveys or something. Nothing like that. He's saying every action that you do, you have to have a certain attitude in that action. Surrender to God and don't worry about the results. Focus on your work and all those things, so there is a surrender bhav is there. There is a detachment bhav is there. All those things we develop, and someday there are 4 or 5 components. We can go a little more in detail. So that's how he suggested Arjuna, because we represent Arjuna.
Right.
Arjuna is, he picked because we are like that. So that was, and then he tweaked it in chapter 4. He talked about Vairagya and all that. What a true Vairagi is and what is it? It's you getting over your likes and dislikes. He says sannyasi. Right. He gave the definition of sannyasi and all that. Right. And he also talked about giving up the doership. That akarma mode and all that we discussed sometime. That is very, very hard to do. Because to give up doership, you got to first understand your relationship with God and who God is and all that. Then you will be able to give. And what is the relationship between Prakriti and Purush? Purush here means Brahman. So Prakriti mein sab kuch hota hai. Purush is just giving, it's there, giving sentiency to everything. It's like the sun is shining and in that sunlight we do everything. Kind of thing. But it's done by us. So Prakriti is the one who does it, but we are actually that consciousness. So in reality, we are not doing anything. That giving up doership is a lot harder because the knowledge has to take place according to him. So that's why Krishna Bhagwan's thing is that give up the fruit of action. But what does that mean? That is in verse 47 of chapter 2. Karmarnyavadhikarasya. We all know, right? That particular famous verse. Hey, there are 4 components to it that, focus on your work, not on the result, because result is not in your hand.
Not in your hand. Yeah.
Because the result comes from Prakriti, higher self. Because you will never know the scope of your karma, who is that affected, how it has happened, you don't know. It's like I'm going to give the exam, but the examiner has to give the result. I don't have the capability of grading my paper.
Correct.
Right? So that's why they said that your adhikar is not in it. And then he said, that does not mean that you sit down and do nothing. Don't become a couch potato. In that verse, And then don't have the eye on a fixed result. Those were the 4 components in that particular verse. So because we say, hey, I did all this and now I want this result. Because the first line, go back to the first line. On the result, tumhara adhikari nahi hai uspe. Right? So that's what the whole practice is. And then he talked about, in 4 and 5, there are like 12 different yagnas that you can do, practices.
Okay.
Then you can pick the one that you like. Some people, do the practice through food and through havan and through puja, and all of them are valid if you know that this is what my final goal is, and these practices are helping me. So it does two things. Don't look down on anybody's practice either. Hey, why that person is doing? Hey, उसका मन वहाँ लगता है तो तुमको क्या problem है? People will start, oh, my practice is the best. Everybody, I'm doing yoga. The whole world has to come and do it. Nothing like that. Some people might connect to it, some people not. So just choose your practices, do it sincerely, and all that he talked about. And the highest yagna he talked about is Brahma Arpanam Brahma Havihi. You must be knowing about that. Hey, the whole world is Brahman, and is Brahman playing with Brahman. Something like that. If once I get that knowledge and all that whole thing comes under practice. Then we came to chapter 6. So that is
Next
all.
question, next question is, what is the role of shastras in vairagya as well as practice?
So it is like the GPS of today's world. Hey, I want to go somewhere to direct me. Am I going the right place? What is my goal? Where is my destination? What road I should take? There are 5 roads. Which is the most conducive to me? What are the roadblocks? Is there a traffic or not? All that, just take that analogy and put it in the Shastras. Hundreds of people have done it and reached. And now they are giving you guidance. That's what Shastra is. Or suppose, best analogy, I go to another city. I don't know anything about that city. And then somebody says, hey, go to the airport in that city. Suppose I drove over there. So I don't know where the airport. Now go to the airport. I don't know airport is east, west, south, or north. If I start driving, what is the chance that I will reach the airport? I don't want to ask anybody. I don't want to follow GPS. I just want to go in circle. You may be going the whole life somewhere, and you might just go. If it is on the east and you start driving on the west, you'll never reach. Okay. Right? So that's the role of Shastras. That is guiding you, is telling you what it is, how to do it, what are the roadblocks, and how you can reach there. It's like me going to I want to do PhD in science, and I want to do it, read everything by myself. Yeah, you might. But if you go to a university, a reputed one, which hundreds of other people have done, there are professors who have done it, they will guide you, you reach faster.
Okay, thank you. Hari Om.
Any other comment, question? Anybody wants to add anything? Vivek, Vairagya, and practice?
I have a comment.
Yeah, sure.
So, and I thought a lot about it. So to me, Vairag is anything you do, if it is taken away from you, you are not upset.
Very good. That's a great definition.
Then you just practice it.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that easy, but so once you have lost your ego and you are totally Vairagi, it won't bother you.
Right. Exactly. I think you hit the nail. Yes, absolutely. But and we will, थोड़ा कुछ हमारे से लेके देखो, हमको पता चल जाएगा हम कितने वैरागी हैं, right? Truth will come to us.
No, हमारा तो test is that.
Yes.
Because anything I want to do, my wife says no, and she checks whether I get angry or I get upset. So
Yep.
the idea is I should,
Yeah.
and then I succeeded.
I think that somebody, Gaurang Bhai used to say, when your family members start praising you a little, that means you have done a little progress. All the other, friends are not praising, don't mean anything. Because they don't see you, like, they don't know your weaknesses. They don't know, all those things, quirks that you have in your head, So, true.
But it is important, just to follow up on that, the thing which is very close to your heart is taken away.
Yeah.
That is where the test of that Vairagya comes in.
Yeah.
That is the most difficult for me, that was the most difficult.
In fact, there is the example Umaji gave on ladder. Ladder, remember? That how
Yes,
the
yes.
growth comes
Yes.
and how all these comes.
Yes.
It's all tied to this.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So it's like if the more knowledge gets solidified in our head, that's why it's called, sthita pragna. If we translate it into English, characteristics of man of steady wisdom, they call it. Not the wisdom that comes and goes. Like somebody was saying, oh, I believe in God, I do all the puja, and tomorrow something bad happens from worldly perspective. Huh? From the spiritual perspective, there's nothing bad that is happening anyway. Maybe death in the family or some disease or some accident or something. Oh, now I don't have faith in God because how can God do this to me? And boom. That's not kind of steady wisdom they're talking about. Steady wisdom is, hey, if I think that if the Shastras are saying the world is like a dream, do I believe it's like a dream? Like in a dream, like Swamiji will give an example, somebody got killed or murdered or anything, and you did something so bad. Your hands are not getting bloody when you wake up. इतना कब होगा हमको तभी वैराग्य आ सकता है, but it's not that easy. So nobody's saying if it was that easy, Arjuna had studied all the Shastras. A very intelligent man, very devoted. He had all the bhakti, jnana, everything he had. But Krishna Bhagavan had to repeat everything because it was still he didn't get it. So I think that if we know the goal, we can try to reach there. And that's why Swamiji made the very great statement that from the moment we are trying to become aware of our own lives, we are in the realm of practice. That is the most important thing. Because like sometimes Tejo Mahanji says, the people who are very indulgent kind of people, who like sense indulgence, and they won't come near this. They say, my life is very happy and, I'm getting a lot of joys from the world. Then they're not going to even accept this. Right? So, but if you are accepting it, that means you've already started thinking about it. And that thinking is going to take you, draw you towards, and that's, I think that one of the reasons that all of you are here to study Bhagavad Gita, because we think there's a value in it.
Yes.
It's a voluntary class, free voluntary class. So it's not like somebody's forcing, but we actually think that by doing this, we are getting benefited and all that. You were asking the role of Shastras because it has all the roadmap. But once I start connecting, it's like the GPS. If you have faith in the GPS, it's that if you have put the address correctly, it will take you there. But then if you start questioning too much, then again you will get lost.
Absolutely.
One question, Umaji. Just when I read it, it felt like the Abhyasa and Vairagya, they were sort of circular.
It is. That's what Krishna Bhagavan said. They are circular.
Because the one you get to know more and more into it, but you have to do Abhyasa, then you Vairagya, then more, till, as Joe mentioned, till the likes and dislikes have gone.
Yes.
But you have to do, but it is circular.
It is definitely circular. I agree with you. And it's something like, like Joe was saying that, hey, I might think, I have made some progress. So the way I look at it, then Bhagwan will say, okay, let me put a little more harder test for you now. Like we used to talk about it in our study group, oh, my life is going good now. I'm getting along with everybody. फिर किसी को लाके सामने खड़ा कर देंगे. You will get so annoyed with that person. It can be a family member, it can be your own blood, or it can be a friend or whoever. They were as sweet and nice, and suddenly they will become your adversary at that moment. Because of that, it's a challenge for us. Like Krishna Bhagavan said to Arjuna, hey, Mahabaho, hey, this is not, you have to take up a challenge then.
Exactly when I read it, and I was going to ask you as a challenge, if we talk about it, if I don't, it's not like a person, but the thoughts, the thinking pattern is so different that, there is some other feeling. And then to get over it and not like or dislike, when I see that person or the thought comes, and not have another feeling for it. It's so hard.
It is. But that is the challenge. And then that's where the knowledge comes into picture. That, okay, like we have discussed it, that if somebody is becoming suddenly an adversary of you and all that, you can look at it, hey, I don't know the karmic relationship. Maybe I have done something to them in the past. See, all that comes under the arena of knowledge, right? Or this world is transitory. Like if I am that Brahman and nothing happens to a Brahman, then what am I worried about then?
True. Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the knowledge, right? We are not established in it that yet. And all these swamis and all that, they are established in it. When you think about, you read the life of, say, Tapovan Maharaj. They left their home and they went on the Himalayas.
Right.
Tomorrow, you don't know whether they never hoard anything. You don't know whether they're going to get food or not. It's cold as hell over there. We won't be able to survive even a day. But look at their vairagya. Where it's coming from, because they have such a tremendous faith in the higher self. If he has brought me to this, tremendous. We cannot even compare ourselves to that. So, but I'm just giving that those kind of people also exist, and most of us have read Autobiography of Yogi in this group, and that was how, the beginning chapters he talked about it, that his challenge his brother, I'm going to take this trip without any money. I have no money. Food is going to come to me, and the brother said, "You're crazy. I'll come with you, and if you can pull this through, I'll become your disciple." And then the whole story, how he was taken care of. And today also there are people who go to the India and all that from all over the world, backpacking and all. They don't know where they're going to sleep, what they're going to do. That's like the highest kind of vairagya. So it exists. We may not be there, but coming back to practical, those are okay. We're not going to do that. We are householders over here. So what kind of vairag we can do then? What Joe was talking about. Hey, tomorrow if I don't get what I want, how do I handle this? That's what it is. Or something negative happens. How do I handle it? Am I doing it with knowledge? Am I doing it with vairagya? And, But also Krishna Bhagavan already said that if you start your practices, it will help you. And we have seen, the people who are bhakti oriented, for example, वो लोग भी बहुत surrender होता है उनमें. अगर कुछ भी बुरा हो जाता है, they will accept it. If my Krishna wants like that, that's fine. No problem. Because they have that surrender. Or it can be like with knowledge, like what we are studying in Bhagavad Gita, that hey, Brahman is nothing happens to it, everything else is experience. Or the Mandukya Upanishad, 3 states of experiences, that's all it is.
See, the bhakti was the one that somebody asked Sivananji, what is the summary of all your books you wrote? He wrote about 500 books. And he says, attach, detach. So detach from the world and attach to God.
Yeah.
So that's the summary of all his books.
Yeah. And to attach with God, we have to know who God is first.
Right.
Without that, we cannot. That's the whole thing. And now, after this chapter 6, very exciting thing is going to start about who God is in the next 6 chapters, So it will get stronger and stronger. Who God is, yeah. So I think this was a very significant verse, made us think a lot. And kind of review the other chapters also. Because we have to build upon it now. If we are going to the next chapter, we have to still try to remember. So occasionally we have to review everything that we did in the past.
Another thing very interesting in this verse was taking stock of your life. That what you put in and what you got out. And once you take that stock, that leads to vairagya. Oh my God, I did so much for nothing,
Yes, that he mentioned it. Absolutely. And, when we go to chapter 16, devilish and divine qualities में, उसमें उन्होंने पूरा description दिया है कि जो लोग खाली worldly होते हैं ना, चारवाका type of people who think that वर्ल्ड ओनली इज रियल, बाकी कुछ है ही नहीं. बोलो कि वो लोग इतना जल्दी अपसेट और डिप्रेस हो जाते हैं बिकॉज देव से मैंने इतना सब कुछ किया, मुझे मिला कुछ नहीं, बिकॉज दे आर लुकिंग एट ओनली फ्रॉम द वर्ल्डली पर्सपेक्टिव, यू नो. सो वेरी क्विकली इट लीड्स टू डिस्पेयर.
And they keep trying harder and harder.
जितना वो ट्राई हार्ड करते हैं उतना वो दूसरी तरफ. एग्जैक्टली. सो या, so I think that it's almost like so we will not do the next one, but this was a very significant one, so I think I'm glad we gave more time to this one. Shall I close Bhagavad Gita? सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज, अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः. हरि ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम.